Pat Gillen.
Josh Bradley.
Here you are.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome to the Mission podcast.
It's awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad you're here.
It's fun. Lots of dead animals and dead football teams and
that was cold, bro.
other things around
especially
here.
now.
Yeah, I know. Clemson is not having the best season for sure.
I have nothing to say. Like who knows where we're gonna go?
Well, the Dogs could be in the exact same position, except we just keep pulling it out at the last minute. So, yeah.
And that's kind of the poison that we hear from like our coaching staff.
Right.
They're like, well, if we just
had 2 more minutes,
7 points in 10 more minutes, we'd be national champions.
And we were actually fulfilling that, but it's ugly. It's not ugly. Pretty. Yeah,
it's ugly. So yeah, I got nothing to say about that. But I will say I will say this, and my buddy's in the other room right now, so he's not listening. But what I would say, at least we have a national championship bottle to put on the shelf.
There you go. That's awesome. I got 3 of them on my shelf.
You do.
Yeah. But the first one is 45 years old. So, yeah.
We have a similar history. So
that's right. That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, man, it's a bad year to be talking about football. Thank God we have better things to talk about, right?
Kind of actually an interesting year to talk about football, but man, it's tough for our teams.
It is weird. What do you think makes it interesting this year?
Well, I think gambling and NIL has changed everything.
Totally.
Right? Like, especially with the NBA thing, you're wondering, like, man, how many of these games are actually real? Like, how many of them are being thrown? What decisions are being made here?
It feels crazy. Like we've been lied to.
It really does.
Like professional wrestling. Like it's like we finally figured out.
But like professional wrestling, going in, it's scripted.
That's what our future looks like.
You know, the whole point of college football is it's not scripted, or NFL for that matter. Now we're like, I don't know, man. Maybe
it feels like AI all the time.
Yeah.
Like we have no idea what
it will
real.
be. You know, I think AI probably will be coaching football pretty soon.
You know what?
The stats that are actually going into gambling are so intense. Have you looked into any of that?
Dude, I have not, but I'm interested in what you're saying.
You can gamble on every single play if you want to.
Yeah,
and there are like stats and percentages, like if somebody's going for it on, with 4th and 3 or whatever. Can you imagine the coach literally on the sidelines going, all right, we've got a 87% chance, so go for it. I mean
the whole
AI is going to be doing it.
Moneyball was built on this kind of idea.
That's true. Minus the AI, that was just the brains of
I didn't
humans.
know Jonah Hill was into baseball that much and that he had done all that in real life, but
yeah, that's crazy.
That was a bad joke, man. You didn't laugh.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it, but now you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, it's so much is changing about sports. I think it's going to be different in 5-10 years, and all these things that we've loved in the past are just going to feel like distant memories. So,
some of that's already dying now.
Yeah.
I mean, some like the NIL changed so much of that,
right?
But now it just feels like every year is more and more different. Yeah.
Well, it was the scrappy teams that usually did pretty good. That honestly, people didn't know those schools for their education. Yeah. Not that they're bad at education. Georgia's a great school, but Georgia Tech, they're a lot richer alumni at Georgia Tech.
Correct.
That can give some money back to the football program.
Correct.
That's definitely going to change some things. Has this year, too.
It certainly has.
Vanderbilt.
Did you grow up playing sports?
I grew up playing sports, but I'm not an athlete. I'm like highly competitive.
Okay.
And not athletic. And it's a really bad combination. So... how
does that flesh itself out in a grown man?
It fleshes itself out in a lot of different ways. But growing up, I had a brother who was 2 years younger than me who is extremely athletic.
Okay.
Yeah, and also competitive. And so very quickly, not only met where I was at, but exceeded where I was at, even though he was 2 years younger than me. And that was really frustrating.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I didn't last long. I think I gave up most sports by 9th grade. So I tell people my brother was captain of the football team. And I played trombone. I was the soloist at the halftime show. And that's true. That's what happened.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So grew up in Georgia.
Grew up in middle Georgia, Warner Robins, Georgia.
Okay.
It's an Air Force Base town. The cool part about living there is you're in middle Georgia. You should be surrounded by just ultimate rednecks and dirt roads and trucks and everything else. But we're in this Air Force Base town where there's people from all over the world. So early on, in my life, just exposed to people from literally across the globe. And that was kind of a cool experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me tell. I want to do a little bit of an introduction, kind of as we got this rolling start, but to tell people a little bit about who you are. You and I've been friends just a couple of years.
Yeah.
A few years, and I wanted people to meet you because I find you really interesting. First of all, I remember you're pastor at the church I've attended, and now that I'm on staff at part time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll never forget, like, one of the first times I heard you preach. I remember, like, coming up to you afterwards, and I was like, dude, are you a Nate Bargatze fan?
Yeah, you did. I remember
and
that.
I was like, you're, like, how you deliver this stuff? Like, I'm back in the back, and I'm dying. I'm like, this guy is brilliant. Like, this is brilliant.
You're like,
he's
brilliant, but he's copying somebody else.
Well,
no. When you listen to people enough, sometimes you don't realize what you're picking up from them, too. So,
well, it felt like I just love the style, and it felt uniquely you.
Right.
Like, I felt very, very real. You know, so that was what I appreciated about it.
Comedy's something I wish I was good enough to do, you know? So
I feel that.
Yeah, like how many other people are standing in front of an audience for an hour and captivating them
and can
for
do
an
it.
hour?
And can do it. Yeah.
It sounds like something that would be the ultimate challenge.
When I get done preaching, sometimes pouring my heart out, the worst compliment anyone could ever give me is, you could have been a comedian.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, really? Like,
see, this is probably a sad thing about me because if people say that, I'm like, yes. but like, you know, for years, and I did student ministry for so many years.
Yeah.
And after I would preach, I only ever got 2 comments. People would say, you're hilarious, or I actually stayed awake, which makes me assume most people are nodding off in the middle of church.
Yeah.
But they would say, oh, yeah, I actually stayed awake, or you're hilarious. And at some point I was like, maybe I need to rethink how I'm preaching. Because I want people to go, this changed my life.
Yeah.
That's really the goal, obviously. But yeah, you want to be funny. I think humor actually helps.
So you're part of the staff of our church here in Simpsonville, First Baptist Church, Upstate Church, Simpsonville, Upstate Church, Greenville, South Carolina. I mean, we're adding new campuses by the
10
minute.
and counting.
Yeah. So it's crazy what God's doing.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be a part of it. You, however, are the let me get your title right, and this is a lot of titles.
Well, I just wear a lot of hats.
You have a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So you're family pastor,
right?
You're also a campus pastor of the Fountain Inn campus, which is a new campus started last year.
Yeah, just over a year old.
Just over a year old. And then specifically, and we'll probably talk a little bit about this later on in our conversation, but the other thing is you oversee the residency, working with these young students, young college students as they're kind of maybe moving
seminary,
towards ministry.
Grad school.
Seminary, yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's super cool. I started at the church as student pastor, and even when our pastor called me about 10 years ago to consider the position, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to move into student ministry. I'm in student ministry, but kind of was feeling whatever may be next. Now, I grew up, student ministry was my heart. Like, that was my passion. And I always thought I'd be a student pastor till the day I retired, till the day I died. So that was kind of a tough conclusion for me. But in my mind, there's the big brother youth pastor, right? I was the big brother youth pastor for years. The guy who would throw the kids in the back of the truck and do donuts in the parking lot.
Love that guy.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Then at some point you're like, all right, like you got to be a little more responsible. And so I was kind of like father figure, you know, I had my own kids. I think I was 29 and one of my students came up to me and said, you're like a spiritual father to us. Wow. And I showed it to my wife and she started, you know, tearing up, and I'm like, what's the spiritual father junk? I'm 29 years old. I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm in my prime.
I'm not a father figure to anybody. But, you know, at some point in youth ministry, you take that kind of shift, especially when you have kids of your own. And then there's like the spiritual grandfather youth pastor. Ooh, yeah. And I'm not that, man. I just realized, like, that's not my vibe. That's not who I am. That's really the more calm, chill guy, the guy that might have candy in his pocket. Everybody loves.
Let me give you. He's wearing flip flops with jeans in the winter.
Yeah, exactly.
With a puffy sweater vest. You got it.
Yeah, sure.
Or a puffy sweater jacket.
There's a specific type of person that fits that vibe, and I'm not that guy. And so
he's awesome.
Trying to think beyond that and what that would mean, but also how can I have an influence in students and next generation, my heart. And so coming here, I started as students, but always with the intention that was going to grow. moved into kind of a next gen role after a few years, and then now family pastor. So, yeah.
Man, you also teach. You're a professor. You also are a chaplain with the local sheriff's office.
Wear a lot of hats.
You also are a writer, author. Like
that was like past life,
but still,
no time for it now.
We'll hopefully talk a little bit about
that'd be great.
Some cool projects you've been a part of that most people will be familiar with. I love it. So tell me, like, let's push into like early years, growing up in Georgia.
Yeah.
Like older brother, but yet
younger. I was older.
Younger. Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
You were the older brother, and your younger brother was better at sports than you were. All that. But tell us a little bit about where you grew up, and maybe what part of the church and faith was how that came a part of your life.
I was one of those guys has been in church my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful for my parents' influence, man, and especially early on, my mom. My dad's spiritual life was probably pretty shallow when I was born, when I was a kid, but we were at a Methodist church, and I grew up going to a Methodist church, and at 8, we moved to a Baptist church. And at some point in that process, Dad accepted Christ, and he got baptized. And,
really?
And just seeing him kind of grow from there has been really cool. Really wasn't until I was in college when I started to see spiritual fruit from my dad. But we went to a Braves game, and he sat down and for like 2 innings straight just quoted scripture to me that he'd been memorizing on the way to work. So such a cool thing to see your parents grow like that. I think we assume our parents, when we're little, we're like, our parents have everything figured out. But
right.
It's not always the case. But we kind of moved to that church when I was 8. I always knew the things of God. I was around the things of God. We never did Halloween. We always did the church Halloween. The church fall
trunk
festival.
Or treat, fall festival.
We've got all those things. I dressed up as a shepherd more times than I can admit because I owned a robe, and that was just easy, right?
Shepherds, football players.
Yeah.
Those were fine.
I think I was a shepherd and my brother was a sheep one year. So, that's
that. I like that.
It's just those little cheesy things, but we'd hit up our neighbors when we came home, but certainly weren't going to celebrate the devil's holiday.
Of course not.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up in that area, and I was a good kid. I was the kid that if everybody was doing something wrong or bad, I'd be like, guys, I'm gonna tell mom. Like I'm gonna tell your mom because she said we're not supposed to do this. So people probably didn't like me at parties I wasn't that guy. But I'm such a rule follower. I was the good kid. I think even at my core, whatever good means, I was a good kid. But at 16 is when I really came face to face with the gospel.
Oh man, well, tell me about that. What happened?
I didn't really want to go anywhere. My parents sent me on this trip with our church. We got a new youth pastor. He just laid it out there. And I think for me, I had kind of been banking on my goodness, my good works, the fact that I'm comparing myself to all these other people. Look how they're acting. I'm not acting that way. Or look at the way they're talking. I'm not talking this way. But at that moment, the gospel just hit me full force. Like, it's not about being good. There's a difference between good and godly. And man, I wanted my heart more than anything else to be more like Jesus, not trying to pursue some efforts that were going to get me there. So 16 really changed my life. I'd been dating a girl for 2 years. She wasn't a believer. Even though I was a good kid and I went to church, I was really a nominal believer at that point. Mm-hmm. And Jesus radically changed my life, man. I mean, it literally to the point where friends that I'd been hanging out with since kindergarten, and I'm now a junior in high school, I was like, man, I don't need you as that influence in my life. And so kind of feeling like you're starting over halfway through your junior year. It felt tough.
What did that new life look like for you? I mean, high school.
Yeah.
I mean, we're, I just remember just trying to survive, figuring out girls, figuring all that stuff out. What did that look like? Like, for me, it was a little bit later before, like, I grew up in a very religious, independent, fundamental household. So I was early 20s before God really changed my life. And so I was able to navigate that at a different time. But tell me how that was in high school for you.
Well, I wouldn't say we were independent, but we certainly were fundamental at my church.
Okay.
We were Southern Baptist fundamental church.
Which is it's a very similar.
Very similar. Yeah. And the pastor we had at the time, we had 2 co-pastors. One of them had been there for 40 some odd years. Incredible man, awesome. we had a co-pastor who was definitely in that fundamental vein. And so as a rule follower, bro, I eat that up. You tell me.
You like that.
Oh, yeah. You're like, this is what you're supposed to do. I fell in hook, line, and sinker, right? So I bought a King James Bible. I bought a suit.
It's the one Jesus read.
That's right. If it's good enough for Paul, it's good enough for me. I mean, and so like I think like I was all in that category for a while at first. In fact, we had a band that came and played music at our high school, and it was an outreach event. And you see these things all the time now.
Okay.
But they came and they played this music, and it was all secular music. And then they said, "Hey, tonight we're going to come back and play some Christian music, and we're going to invite you guys to come back." Well, one of the songs they played was a revival of that Grease song, Summer Nights.
Okay.
Which, whatever. It just kind of come back on the radio in the late 90s. And so I was talking to my friend, and I'm like, they're such hypocrites. I was like, Summer Nights is not talking about the weather.
Nope.
And he said, well, in the words of MXPX, legalistic suck, man. MXPX was like a punk rock Christian band. And so, man, I remember being so mad walking down that hall. I now am a reformed legalist myself.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably in the same category as you. Yeah. So every now and then that little, head will turn and I have to watch it. But yeah, early on, I think that is what, I just radically was all in. Whatever I do, I'm all in. I'm not a person that goes halfway in something, or just kind of considers doing something. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
So following Christ was no different. And for my life, I was like, all right, well, if following Jesus means surrendering to him and giving him my life, then why should I hold anything back? I gave him everything, whether it was friends, girlfriend, jobs, whatever, future, all of that. So pretty soon after that, I felt like God was calling me into ministry and pursued that too. So
you went directly into like a ministry career coming out of high school? Like, did you go to a Christian college? Like,
well, I was going to be an engineer, man. My dream was a Lexus and a big house. That's a small dream if you think about it. I probably should have had bigger dreams.
Not for a high school kid, though.
Maybe, yeah. I know, but I wanted a Lexus SC400.
Oh, yeah.
First V8 two-door Lexus they had.
Did you ever make that happen, though?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But ministry kind of gets in the way of the Lexus sometimes. Now, it depends on what kind of church you're at.
Well, there are versions.
There are some churches where they'll buy the Lexus for you.
They'll buy it for you.
But usually that's the lead guy too.
Right.
Not the family pastor.
Not the family pastor.
That was always my dream. But being an engineer is something I think I would have enjoyed. But when God started calling me into ministry, again, I'm all in. I'm like, what am I going to do if I'm called to ministry? I need to go prepare for that.
Correct.
And so I went up to Liberty for college for a weekend. My youth pastor had been a Liberty alumni, took me up there in April of my senior year, applied at Liberty. So literally
months,
3 months away from starting or whatever up there, and applied and just ended up going to Liberty. It changed my life. It was incredible.
Do all 4 years there?
I did. I graduated a little early, so
of course you did.
When I finished 4 years, I had like 27 hours of grad work done. So I did a seminary degree there too, but I ended up going to Southeastern after Liberty to kind of finish that off too.
Nice.
So got two degrees there, and it's been a great school. But Liberty gave me the opportunity to that person that I became when I was a junior to live that out. Like you know how I never moved until I went to college. I lived in the same house, the same bedroom for 18 years. There's a sense in which you're not stuck. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You almost feel like, how can I be somebody else? This is what people know, and it's just really hard to almost convince people around you Jesus has done something different in my life. When I went to Liberty, none of those people knew me.
So you're meeting people for the first time.
I'm meeting them for the first time.
The guy I want you
this
to
is
know.
who I am. Yeah. I am now new Christian Pat. However you want to say that. So.
New Christian Pat.
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm gonna save you in my phone.
Back then, I didn't really like Pat. There was a bad SNL skit going around.
There was.
So, but in college, Pat ended up sticking.
But thank God, Karen has now taken that over.
Praise the Lord. You're so right about that.
All my Pat friends are free.
Yeah, Pat is good. Pat is a good name now.
Pat's good.
Yeah.
Pat is totally good.
Yeah.
So when you were like leaving college, seminary. Did you meet your wife?
Yeah,
there?
I met Mel at Liberty. We actually had some classes together, but we didn't know each other.
We didn't talk about this, but we jumped right in. But I wanted, you are a family man, married to Mel. How long have you been married to Mel?
Been married 22 years.
22 years,
yeah.
and man, she's great, and
she's the best part about me for sure. Yeah.
I like the way you said that.
Jesus.
I like the way you said it. We have to qualify it by saying other than
I know,
Jesus.
you know, I feel, but it's true. It is true.
It is 100%.
But you don't want somebody listening to take that out of context. And why is his wife above?
They're 100% going to comment.
Yeah, that's the
Pat.
Karen will do that.
Just she will. Post in the comments.
Right.
So so she's great. Done like women's ministry for years and years and years, and really been great at that.
Yeah, she's done all kinds of things too. She does writing for different people, Lifeway and other people as well. So
man, that's great. You 2 kids.
2 kids. I got a 17-year-old who we pray will graduate in May, and then a 15-year-old who we're terrified is wanting to drive everywhere. So, man, kind of a weird phase of life, man.
Yeah,
teenagers are tough. So
I feel that.
You know, for years as a youth pastor, I'm like, man, I'm your expert, and I'll
tell you what you need to know.
I will help you because. This is what I do for a living, and then having teenagers, I'm like, please, where's that expert at?
Where's that guy?
I need that guy. Yeah, for sure. But
it is I don't feel as helpless at anything else in my life, as I do when I'm trying to think about how to be a dad.
When it's your kids,
I mean, I think even the husband part, even though like we struggle with that, I feel like, all right, I got a bit of an edge on that, right? But with the dad thing, I feel like, man, and what's funny,
because every stage is a new thing to learn.
It's always new, and there's this thing inside of all of us, I think, that leads us to believe that we're failing uniquely, and no one else is failing quite as bad as us, or exactly how do people know I yelled at my kids on Sunday before I went and preached to hundreds of people about the freedom we can live out in Jesus? Do they know that guy? Or do they know like
well, then that creates that imposter syndrome, because you're like, man, I mean, I think we started ministry thinking we've got to be the expert and tell everybody where to lead, and now we realize we're just broken people helping other broken people with the stuff that we know, right?
I was talking about this yesterday with 2 of my friends. Yeah. And we were talking about like, okay, there are these things that we're really good at. Like there's certain things like I'm gifted at, and I'm like, oh, I'd even say I'm great at this. Or there are things that I would look at you and be like, dude, you're great at this. But when you really push through this to the phase of life we're in now, you realize just even those giftings, just how meaningless. Yeah. And I don't mean meaningless like they're not valuable. I just mean they're not foundational. To who you are, to your identity. There are ways that God uses you, absolutely, but they won't sustain you.
That's a good word.
They won't sustain you. Like I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, like my best thing, like that I do, whatever that, whatever I think that is for me. Like you get down to it, and if that's all you have left,
it's true.
Who cares?
Well, you put all your effort in the works of your hands, because that's where you get the trophies. That's where you get in the paper. That's how somebody gives you the award or names the fellowship hall after you. But when it comes down to it, I think the titles that matter most are ones that nobody ever sees, which is husband and father and friend and those things.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I hate to drop this, but nobody's ever going to put our pictures on the front of a fellowship hall.
Yeah.
And that's saddening to me.
Yeah. I think one of my bucket list items is for something to be named after me. And so I've told developers, I'm like, just give me a street. Just call it like Patrick Avenue. And it could be 3 houses on that street. I don't care. That's one of my goals. I don't want it to be one of those TV carts. You know, have you ever been to a church and there's a TV cart and somebody's name's on it? Yeah, I'm like, really?
With the tag, but it's permanently attached.
But I'm like, what was the gift get the TV cart? I'm sure we tithe significantly more than whatever it took to get the TV cart.
All right, talking about student ministry. Yeah, we'll tell this story. It's great. It connects right here, and I think it'll hit just how funny it is. Like we were doing student ministry. The first church I was involved in student ministry with. I was a volunteer, but I was kind of like moving into ministry, trying to figure this out. I preached for the first time.
A little more than a volunteer.
Yeah. And so, man, I never forget, we met in this fellowship hall that was named after the founding pastor of the church.
Yeah.
And there was a beautiful oil painting of him.
Seen it.
Right outside the door.
My first church, same thing.
It's there, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was in like the early 2000s, like literally the year 2000. Like we were there.
Yeah.
And so we were inviting kids from the high school, and this was during those student ministry years where it was like
free pizza, everybody shows up.
We want to bring all the lost kids. Like that was kind of the idea. And man, it was like, let's get them here. Let's tell them about Jesus. And tons of kids were being saved. It was awesome. It was one of the most incredible times of my life. We had so much fun. But we brought in some crazy kids, bro. Like they were always doing something. One night we are literally standing, welcoming people there. And we look, and one of the kids who had visited is running across the parking lot away from the church.
With the painting.
Of the founding pastor of this church. And we're on the edge anyway, because these kids are smoking outside.
That's crazy.
And all the, like, it's okay for the deacons to smoke outside, but you can't have a child smoking outside. I understand that.
That's
but man,
awesome.
It was wild. He's running with this painting, and we're all like, we're not just going to be fired. We're literally going to be unalived. Like that is what's going to happen. And we find this kid and we bring him back. We're laughing. We're not taking this seriously at all. And we're like, dude, what are you doing? And I promise you, he goes, bro, I love this painting. This guy looks exactly like my grandpa.
He just wanted to take it for his house?
He just wanted to take it for his house.
If you'd have never seen him in the parking lot, it would have disappeared and nobody would have known.
Yes.
Dude, student ministry creates so many different...
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And so as you're jumping into ministry, like your first role, tell me a little bit about that. Like you get right out of seminary, right out of college. Here you are. Tell me, you met Mel at Liberty, finished at Southeastern. When did you guys get married, and when did you go into like a first ministry role?
We got married in 2003, but I started in 2002 as a student pastor at a church. It was about 90 miles away from my apartment in seminary, so it was a lot of driving for a couple of years.
90 miles.
90 miles. It was my mom's home church, so kind of had a connection there. Mm-hmm. Thought it would be fun. I was related to half the church anyway, you know. So I actually had two of my cousins in the student ministry. But it was great. Like I got to drive that time. I got all that time kind of to just think and pray, and that's really, man, where I love to pray and prepare. So before podcasts, I mean, I couldn't imagine now having that drive time having podcasts, but you know, you're listening to sermons or you're just kind of preparing, listening to music. And I love doing that. We had an interim pastor, interim associate pastor, interim worship pastor, and I was technically the interim youth pastor for 2 years at that church. So we joked we were interim Baptist church, just completely in transition. Yeah.
Was that a good experience? Like
it was, but you know, a lot of that was just me trying to figure it out. As long as you don't do anything bad, nope, you don't have any accountability.
Yeah, like getting the painting stolen off.
Yeah, if the painting was stolen, I probably would have been like, man, I don't know what happened.
We'd never be sitting here.
Yeah.
It would all been
and
done.
The interim associate pastor's the one whose painting is on that fellowship hall, and he was an awesome guy, man. What an incredible person. Man,
that's something to get your painting on there as the interim.
Well, he actually, this is actually a cool story if we have time, but he was the youth pastor at this church, associate pastor in the 60s and the 70s. And he was my mom's youth pastor.
You went to work in your first church for your mom's youth pastor.
I think he did my parents' wedding, if I remember. But in the 70s, early 70s, he ran off with the church secretary. Disappeared. Did his thing. It didn't last long. He said a few months in, he realized this was a bad choice. He left his wife, left his kids, but his wife wanted nothing to do with him. She was like, I'm out, bro. You ran off from me. I'm done. And we're talking about little town in North Carolina. Yeah. Everybody knows everybody. This isn't like Greenville where you can hide somewhere. Everybody knows everybody. So, you know, for years, he's kind of doing the only time he's talking to her is transitioning the kids. 10 years in, he runs into her in a supermarket, and just they have a normal conversation, and things start to change from there. He starts to pursue her again. It took 10 more years, 20 years from when he ran away from her. They actually got remarried and restored that relationship. Neither one of them had been married to anybody else or pursued anybody else since that moment, and remarried. And so kind of in full circle, when the church was looking for an associate pastor,
Yeah.
what a redemptive story. They were
Holy
like,
smokes.
let's bring him back as an associate pastor. And his advice to couples was, don't waste 20 years of your life like I did.
Wow.
I mean, just an incredible story. So, and obviously people loved him enough to put his name, the associate pastor, on the fellowship wall. So great guy, man. Totally awesome.
What a story, man.
Yeah. Definitely influential in my life. And, I asked him one time, like, what led you to that? Like what, I mean, obviously we know some of the answers to those questions, but tell me a little bit about the process of that. And same office that he literally came back to the same office he had been in like 30 years before. But he said, man,
hopefully a different secretary though.
All right, this is getting a little dark.
Too dark.
But yeah,
I shouldn't have said that. True.
But no, he said I would set my Bible on the corner of my desk right here on this very desk. And after church on Sunday, and I'd pick it back up the next Sunday. That's why I had an affair. And that stuck with me ever since that moment. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, pretty cool testimony. And man, I've shared his testimony to several people. He did not like to share his testimony. For him, it was an embarrassment. He didn't want to get in front of people and say that. And he didn't want to dishonor his wife or his family. And to me, I see it as an honor the Lord and what God has done. God restored what was broken.
And now to look back and to see like a guy was willing to repent and then move back towards ministry, investing in people's lives.
It takes a lot of humility to do that,
right? It
really,
really does.
I mean, just the fact that he was willing to wait until God restored his marriage is humility. I mean, that's an incredible thing. He waited 20 years. So he knew he messed up, wasn't going to give up. And God did an incredible thing. So
you're there.
His legacy changed.
Hey guys, we wanted to break in and take a moment to tell you a little bit about Heart the Mission and what we do. We are dedicated to helping pastors and Christian leaders find clarity that will inspire confidence and courage. And if you're in a situation to where you believe that God has called you maybe to more clarity for your future, more clarity for your mission, more clarity for your staff, we would love for you to reach out to us at heartthemission.com to find out more about what it might look like for us to partner together through a process of clarity for you, for your church, or your organization. Check us out, heartthemission.com. How long were you?
I was there 2 years, and after that, we graduated seminary. We had no kids. We had no, no debt, nothing. So we're like, we want to do something bold. What does that mean? Started looking into ISC, which is now called Journeyman. It used to be ISC was married, Journeyman was single. Now it's just all the same with the Southern Baptist. And we're like, let's just go across the world somewhere and just like do whatever we can do. And started looking into that. A friend of mine actually was planting a church in North Atlanta and said, man, would you consider coming with me and planting this church? And so the more we prayed about it, the more we actually started feeling led. Let's plant this church. Let's do this thing. And so we moved down in 2004 to Forsyth County, Georgia, to plant a church with my friend. Did that for 5 years. We were there for 5 years. And, part of those years I blocked out, mentally blocked, spiritually blocked, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I tell people, if you're not bipolar before church planting, you're bipolar after.
Correct.
Like one Sunday, you're just like king of the world, man.
Best day ever.
I know what I'm doing. I need to like write books and tell other people what to do.
Me.
Yeah. The next week you're like, why am I alive right now? Like, come on, Lord. Like, how are you doing this to me? Just the emotions of it are up and down.
So you and Mel called into this church planting world. What was your role on that team, Pat?
I was, church planting is a different animal. Correct. I was everything but the lead pastor. Mm-hmm. So if it was kids ministry, if it was groups, if it was marketing, if it was helping with worship, like I played in the band, whatever, like I did all that. I filled in and preached, but I was basically every other role in doing that, which I loved. Youth pastor, of course, that was my heart. So I kind of stepped into whatever was called to me. And I think that's probably true of my story and my life is, I'm not that guy that's, I just play baseball and that's all I do. I'm the guy that wants to play all the sports. I want to do kind of a little bit of everything and have a part in every little thing. So that was great for me. I enjoyed it, but obviously also very tough.
Tell me about those years. What was that like?
Yeah, it was tough. Really, 3 years in, the guy that I started that with, which we grew up together. We weren't, best buddies growing up, but we grew up together. Same home church, same hometown. I would say he burned out. I don't know if he would describe it that way, but I think it's exactly what happened. Church planning just does that to you.
Yeah.
3 years in, burnout. And if we're being fair, being honest, he's actually built for a big church. Like there's an entrepreneur heart that it takes to be a church planter. You've got to be willing to do something with nothing. If you're the guy that's like, well, I have it in the budget, why can't I spend it? You're not a church planter.
Not you.
Right? You've got to be the guy that's like willing to find out how to tie two things together, make it work. And I'm sure, I actually think he would be great. I used to joke like, man, our second church plant, we're going to kill it. We're learning all these bad things now.
Once we screw this one up really, really
this one's
badly,
terrible. But the next one is going to be great.
Home run.
Yeah. And so, but 3 years in, we sat in his basement and he looked across the table and said, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm gone. I'm going to a church in Memphis and I'll be out of here. And
you didn't know anything.
He didn't include me in any of the process until getting 2 weeks notice.
And you're like, I'm assuming friends with this guy, like
friends, coworkers. Yeah. Planted a church. So trauma buddies.
Correct.
Whatever you want to call that.
I would think that relationship would be like very, very intimate, very connected. Right. So,
yeah. I would have said we were close. And of course I probably didn't react very well then.
Yeah. What happened?
I was a little angry, hurt. His actual words were, you can keep the church going, shut it down, whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do. What did you say?
I'm out. I think I said I need more than 2 weeks because I think 2 weeks from that date, I was actually scheduled to be on a mission trip with Power Plant, North American Mission Board.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not even going to be here on your last day, and we got to determine what's next. But the crazy thing was my next door neighbor had moved in. They didn't have kids. We didn't have kids at the time. We would eat dinner at each other's house like every other night. It was just kind of like you see each other in the yard. Like, what are y'all doing tonight? Come on over. You just kind of fast friends. And they were far from the Lord, but they knew about God. They'd kind of been to church some here and there. He grew up going to church on holidays, things like that. So he'd heard about Jesus, but they started coming to church. And one day he knocked on my door and in my living room said, I'm ready to follow Jesus with my life, whatever that means.
No way.
I'm ready to do that. So I led him to the Lord, and then he started bringing all of his friends, people from college right down the road that that he went to college with, and they started coming. So right in the midst of our pastor saying, hey, I'm out, you can keep it going, shut it down, I felt like we were actually seeing a little bit of a breakthrough that we'd been praying for quite a while, if that makes sense. So Mel and I were like, we're not done. We don't feel like God's done. I'm also super hard-headed. So if God tells me something, he usually hits me upside the head pretty strong. So in that moment, I was like, well, I'm not giving up. Like, this guy's giving up. I'm not giving up.
I'm not giving up.
God's called us here. We've been pouring our life here for 3 years. I just saw my neighbor accept Jesus. Now his friends are coming. They're starting to get connected. Let's jump in this thing, man. Let's do it. He
followed through with the 2 week plan.
He stayed one extra week so that he would be there my final week, or that I would be there his final week, rather. 3 weeks later, he was gone. And he's thriving in ministry. And I would consider him a friend.
Praise God.
I actually called him one day and told him I forgave him. And he's like, for what? But I was like, maybe this is for me more than you. But I've been holding a lot of bitterness about that decision. So I had to forgive him. And just know that, man, we're all broken, especially when we're burnout. We make tough decisions. And so kind of in a wild scenario, I became the lead pastor within a matter of 2 weeks. I mean, people that, the average churchgoer, they say, is like 1.3 times a month. It had been easy for somebody to come 1 week and he was the pastor, and then come the next time they come, and now I'm the pastor. It happened that quick. So, but we're not talking about a massive church. It's a church plant. We met in the cafetorium of a high school, kind of walking through all of that. And then I had a friend on the south end of the county who was kind of doing the same thing. He was co-pastor with a guy who actually had left. And he was like, man, I didn't sign up to do this by myself, and church planning's hard enough. What do you think about us joining forces? Both of our church plants running about 100 people. What do you think about us kind of bringing that together and be co-pastors? And I was like, man, this sounds awesome. Like, I'm built for teams. That's really like what I do for a living. I feel like is building teams, and I'm built for that. So being off on my own was tough. I mean, it was a struggle. So he and I started meeting. I met with our leadership team. He met with his people, and we decided we're going to actually merge on Sunday nights for a short period of time and be one church. And the week before we merged, he said, hey, just so you know, I'm heading out. I got 2 weeks, and I'm going to Lifeway. So he ended up having a job at Lifeway, moved onto there.
And left the merging church with you.
Yeah, I think if I had to assume things, whether I think it's something he would say or not, I think that people don't want I shut down a church on my resume. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
So it's easier to go, well, let this guy shut it down. Hey, when I gave it to him, things were fine.
Everything was good.
And so I kind of inherited that congregation who now they're also bitter, angry, confused. They're like, wait a minute, we left our building. We're coming here Sunday nights now. That pastor's leaving. What's really happening? I'm like, you know as much as I do. It was a challenge, man. It was a difficult time for sure.
Had you and Mel already started your family by that point? Or?
Yeah. I think this was right at the time my son was born, so 2008. And we ended up leaving there in 2009. So in that last year of all of that, that's exactly when our son was born. New baby.
You're pastoring
I'm
2 churches.
27 years old.
Yeah, so a ton of experience.
Tons of experience and wisdom, right? Of course, I thought I knew everything, right?
Tell me about that. Like, I want to get in your mind a little bit. Like, in those moments,
yeah.
What are you thinking about the weight that you're now shouldering? What are you thinking about that pressure? What are you thinking about the future? Like, what's happening in your mind during that?
I think there is a drive and a hard-headedness in me that was like, we are going to push through. We're going to make this happen. I don't care how many other people drop the ball. We don't quit. We don't give up. That's not what we do. I think that was drilled into me as a kid through sports and other things. Like, my dad's been that way. My mom's been that way. They've both just done so well in life. And part of that's they didn't quit and didn't give up. I saw this as quitting. It wasn't quitting. It was God moving them on, even though I don't know that they left in a way that I would have preferred because it didn't help me. But I was like, God, if I need to be the person that picks up the pieces, then let me be that person. And so it was painful for sure. But again, God's still moving in our midst. I mean, we're still doing incredible things. We're still seeing people accept Christ. But now we don't have a place to meet. So now we're meeting Sunday nights at a church. So that became our biggest challenge. So my pivot now is like, where are we going to meet? I mean, I'm open to any idea. Somebody's got a garage big enough, we'll fit in there. Like we need to get back to Sunday mornings is what we need to do. So started pivoting around. Forsyth County was the 4th fastest growing county in the nation at the time. So the price of land through the roof. I mean, insane. Buying land, impossible. Renting a place, it's going to be a difficult scenario. This is really before churches started shutting their doors at the rate that we're seeing now. So it wasn't like there was churches that were coming available either that we could pop into.
Yeah.
That just wasn't an option.
Yeah, we got another 20 years go by. Now people are dying.
That's exactly
churches
right.
Are popping up everywhere.
Yeah, probably 10 years after that is when we started to see that trend happening a lot. And now it's every other day. We see another one in everywhere. Our neighborhood. Yeah, it happens. Back then, that wasn't the case. So, yeah, we stayed true. And I don't know how to describe it, but there was a day when I was preaching, and it was around Christmas or New Year's, around the turn of the year, and of 08 to 09. And there was something. Do you ever feel like you're having conversations in your head when you're preaching? Like there's stuff going on in the back, right?
Every time.
Sometimes it's the Holy Spirit, no doubt, I think, leading us in that moment. But other times you're like, is my fly down or like my shoe untied or like you're just thinking about all these other things. Why is that person yawning or why is that person coughing or what's going on over there? And so you're trying to fight those distractions. In that moment, there was like nothing else in my brain except the peace of God saying, it's time to move on. This is it.
During a sermon,
like while I was preaching. So like you're trying to like share this passion, and yet inside it's like, no, it's time.
Were the outside like indicators for like success of a thriving, healthy church? What were those going okay?
No,
And
I
now
don't think so. Were
you seeing things?
We saw a decline because obviously when you leave, any leader leaves, you see people go, right?
Yeah.
So our senior pastor had left. We saw some people leave with him. Some of them were bigger givers. He was like the wear a suit on Sunday morning, even back then kind of thing, even though he was 28 years old. So the people that enjoyed him also probably had a little deeper pockets, you know. I look a little more blue collar, maybe act a little more blue collar. I don't know. So those people that are coming, it's a different group. And then with the other church that came, it was kind of the same deal. That guy left, and they thought, well, now I got to decide whether I want to stick around. There wasn't time for us to really merge our DNA and our culture and that sort of thing. So that was difficult for sure. So from all numbers, we were dwindling and not doing well, even though we're seeing things happen. But it wasn't like we're exploding, we're busting out the gate. Now we're meeting Sunday nights, and we're like, we've got to make some changes. We've got to either relaunch, which we kind of did, a soft launch, but we've got to get into Sunday morning and restart this thing.
And so what did you do with that information?
Yeah, God gave me that. I met with our leadership team, and they all said, yeah.
We've been talking about this.
We've been thinking about this for a long time. And I was like, all right, cool. And just with my heart for church planting, I was like, well, in that same meeting, I was like, why don't we just divide everything up and support church plants with everything we have? I mean, we had, I think, $75,000 in the bank. We had all this equipment. We had a lot of stuff that we blessed other churches with at the time, which was awesome. But I didn't want that to just go to nothing. I love our association, but I didn't want to go sit in a parking lot of association. I wanted that to go help directly church planters. So people that had been involved with us directly, we gave that back to them in a lot of ways. So that was a blessing. And honestly, I told the church, and I said, hey, I don't have anywhere to go. You've had 2 pastors who left here for bigger, better, and I don't want you to feel like that's what I'm doing. And so it's probably dumb, and I would never recommend anybody to do that. But I just said, I'm quitting and moving on because I feel like God's called me to, but it's not because I have something else lined up. I just want you to know that's how I feel led by the Lord. And so the church, I think, honored that, and then God provided almost immediately another church, which was kind of cool. Yeah.
Man, that's a heavy story, bro.
Well, I think like walking out in faith, like and maybe it's easier when you're 28 years old, to some degree. I still had a mortgage, and I have a 1-year-old at home. I mean, you still have those pressures. You don't realize maybe the gravity of some of those things, but you still have those for sure.
As you now, like, what do you think are like the maybe 1 or 2 like big takeaways for you in life from that experience, Pat?
I probably over-evaluated this. Is one of the reasons I have anxiety in my life, is that I over-evaluate everything. But building a team was something that I wasn't focused on. I was pushing that through, man. This is going to be like, Pat doesn't give up. I'm going to prove to everybody, you can dump on me all you want, but I'm going to make this happen. And I think in that moment, I realized how little I actually matter in the whole process. And God wants to build a team bigger than that. God wants to actually bring other people as a part of this process. So I think I wasn't good at sharing vision in that moment. I wasn't good at helping people see what we were trying to accomplish, because I was trying to use them to accomplish my vision. I wasn't trying to help them see the importance of the vision so they could own it themselves and help other people see it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I really grabbed out of there. And then just a full dependence on the Lord, man, just completely trusting him and him being at the center of everything in my life. It wasn't like, yeah, Jesus is a part. I think people look at ministry as a job, and certainly, I mean, it is a job, right? I get a paycheck and I pay taxes off of it, and I have a boss, and all those things are true. But look, really understand calling in those moments when you start to get into the darkness of people leaving you, and the darkness of going, what's next? I don't know. I feel broken. Who wants to hire me? Why would anybody hire me in this moment? Because I just shut down a church that didn't make it, and I wasted 5 years of my life. That's what it felt like. So all those things, I think, kind of coming along the journey to go, those things are shaping me to become the minister I need to be. And maybe somebody else gets that at 21 years old and they just move right on. But it took a lot of humility to walk through that for me, to learn humility, and still obviously something that I want to work on.
As pastors, and I would say maybe even to a greater degree as church planters,
Mm-hmm.
our identity is really closely
So
tied
Yeah.
to the success or failure of our endeavor, right? And I remember, personally, being having at one point crashed out of church planting myself after what some people would have said, oh, this was a successful run you were on. I remember there were days that I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
And Pat, I was so bankrupt, like emotionally, spiritually, like relationally, that all I really had left was my success and talent, and it wasn't enough.
Right.
It wouldn't sustain me. And what going back to your pastor talking about that Bible being left on the corner of the table, I think a little differently than that for me. It was, what did I really put my faith in? What did I really put my hope in? And more often than not, during those days, even though so much of it felt like faith, I was just leveraging a lot of my own ability.
For sure.
And when things begin to crumble, and you try to hold together things that are crumbling with your own ability,
tighter.
You're gonna crash.
It's gonna fall apart. Well, I would have loved to have been in your shoes and felt like I had success and talent. I mean, like, at least I got success and talent.
You did hear me say that wasn't real, though, right?
I'm just, man, I think in that moment I'm like, I got nothing. And I don't know that I went as far as you did, as far as the depth of those emotions, but certainly a sense of worthlessness, that exists.
So when I first met you, I was at that time doing some research for a church planting project I was working on, and I was really trying to talk to young, or not young, but I was trying to talk to sending church pastors about the value of sending out church planters in communities, and how that data shows that really sending out a church planter is one of the ways that to revitalize a church, one of the best ways to revitalize a church, one of the best ways to bring health to a church, one of the best ways to bring vision to a church. And as I was doing that research, I'm not going to mention the book, I'm not going to mention the author, but I do want to talk a little bit about you because it's part of your story.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the back of this book, which some people refer to as like the church planting Bible from the late 2000s, right? And so it's a very, very popular church planting book by a very, very popular author. And I'm looking in the back, and I look, and it says, "I just want to thank Pat Gillen for his influence in helping me write this book."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is this the same Pat Gillen? And I remember I had to ask you about it, and I was like, "Dude, is this you?"
I don't think there's a lot of us out there, Pat Gillen. I think there is one in town who won an award on a radio station sometime, and somebody tagged me on Facebook, and I'm like, "Sorry, not me. I don't know who that is." But part of that church planning process, this guy was at NAM at the time, and he and I connected over a book called Younger Evangelicals that I just read, and it was super interesting to me. And we had about an hour-long conversation about it. And he said, "Hey, would you consider writing for me?" And I didn't know this is kind of how that world works. But some of those guys that are high capacity, they're really subbing out a lot of the jobs for other people to do. They're giving them leadership for sure, and they're providing even the main idea or the content, but other people kind of producing it. So on the side, I started writing for him. I wrote sermons for about 2 years. I wrote articles. And then I worked on several books, and that being one of them. So it was kind of fun. I think that opened up something. Back then, blog was huge, right?
Yeah,
I blogged every day. It was like a ritual, but it was really like a habit. Like, I want to stay in the habit of writing. So I would blog every day. You get friends on your blogs. You're tagging other people on your blogs. It's a different world now, even though blogging is really back in a lot of ways with Substack. But but yeah, I just enjoyed writing, did that. I wrote for NAM, wrote for Lifeway, wrote for Youth Ministry 360, several different organizations. I did one scholarly thing with the guy you're talking about, and I never saw it, but I actually was getting credit for it because most of the writing I was doing was like ghostwriting for him. Like I would write it, but I'm getting no credit. When I helped with that book, he was like, "I'm gonna put your name in the front and under the thanks," and I was like, "All right, that sounds great to me." But I wrote on one scholarly thing that was used in seminaries, and I was working on a mission trip with Power Plant, and this guy came up to me and was like, "Did you help with this?" And I'm like, "Man, can you send that to me? I've never seen it." Yes, I did help with that. So I used to get to do a lot of stuff like that. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, here's why I bring that up is I love, and I think part of our value system for our company, Heart the Mission, and how we want to help pastors be able to find courage, confidence through a process of clarity really does point to them being able to understand exactly how God's carved them out. And so much of that is connected to their pain, connected to failure, connected to really finding an authentic identity, God-given identity underneath all of the surface of those other things. So when I see the back of that book, right, and I'm like, holy smokes, like how many guys read this book on their way in the door to planting churches, and you've been able to have a major influence in their life.
Well, don't overestimate what I actually contributed to the book, but yeah, I think that was a fun time, and ironically, in the midst of probably the hardest, most difficult, most depressing, most challenging ministry times of my life. So yeah, in the midst of all that, God's opening other doors and other opportunities all the while. So
incredible, man.
Yeah.
And listen, just knowing your story, that's not the only pain you guys faced.
No, I mean, you could say we're in the middle of it right now, in some ways. But about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, my wife got diagnosed with breast cancer, and so that took a turn for us, as far as like what our priorities were at that moment, where things are going great. I mean, I'm like, we're hitting our strides in ministry. We've been here for, I think at that point, 6-7 years, where my daughter's going to love that I said that, by the way.
6, 7, all the kids.
It didn't say it on purpose, but now it's hard not to think that when I hear it.
The fact, this is like the third time in the conversation with a guy who shouldn't know that. It's come up, like talking to me, like just like, 6, 7. And I'm like, do you know what that means? He's like, but my kids are talking about it.
Right.
So I don't think you know what it means either, but it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing for sure. Not doing the hand motions with it. But, coming out of COVID, church is starting to really take off, man. Like, honestly, our church has grown significantly since COVID, just unreal. And so in the midst of all of that, ministry just going so well, Mel ended up getting cancer.
I mean, you, because saying all that, like you've really found your place here in ministry through what you're doing with next gen stuff, the residency, what you're doing in family ministry. Like you've really found a really sweet role in the campus pastor. And so in the middle of all like that movement, like now this comes along. Man, what is that?
Well, to maybe affirm some people out there, I used to tell people the hardest part about cancer was raising teenagers. It's in the midst of all that. So my wife's just the strongest person I know. Even from the beginning, her prayer was, "I want God to use this. Like, how can God use this?" And she said she's completely free of cancer now. It's a blessing. We're past all of it. It's in the back. But she said, "Man, if I could rewind time and remove cancer from my story, I don't know that I would, because God showed me so much about himself in the midst of that process, and I've grown so much closer to him." Now, I was like, I would rewind time and remove cancer for sure. But I love that she leads in that way, even in my life, helping me see really the Lord's hand, even in the pain, in those painful moments, when God is actually, it's not that he is closer. It might actually be that we are more attuned to him. Like we're more willing to submit and realize how close he really is. So I think in those painful moments is when we lean into the Lord a little bit more. And so in the midst of all that, it's been kind of a journey. And then my dad's had strokes and is in memory care, and now my mom's got her cancer story that she's dealing with. So past few years for our family have kind of been challenging, but God's been so good and faithful in the midst of it.
Tell me a little bit about those early days, like when that diagnosis first came.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, man.
Tell me about those tell me how do you have that conversation?
You're just weeping. I mean, it's just pain is all it is. You can't process it. You know, when you first find something out, it's like my chart. And so, or a doctor who's like, yeah, there's something there. And then you go to Google, right? Which is like the worst thing you can do. If you ever get that diagnosis, just stay away from Google because it's going to lead you down a bunch of roads.
By the way, nobody's taking that advice.
Nobody's taking the advice. Nobody will stay away from Google, and yet
they need to know like what they're about to read is going to be devastating.
Yeah, and well, just as a point of reference, the type of cancer that my wife had, the doctor, the oncologist told us, if you Google this, you're going to see some really bad numbers. But in the past 3 years, there's actually been a new drug that came out and got approved and makes a massive difference. So don't lean into that. Let's just ignore what you find online because life expectancy is not good. If you look at what this kind of cancer had 3-5 years ago, and right now we're doing great things. And man, it's great.
All right, so you get this devastating news. It's just been a few years ago. Tell me how was that for the whole family? Like your wife, kids, everybody's taking this news in. Like, what in the world, man? How were they able to navigate that?
I think it's hard for kids to process things. You know, we say kids are resilient, which is true, but this still is formational for them, right? Like how they're forming their view of the Lord, how they're forming their view of the world itself, the pain that the world provides, that sin provides, you know, in so many ways. And so Mel and I's goal in that whole time was just so that the kids would see our faith, you know, that they would see our trust in the Lord in spite of circumstances. We didn't let it slow us down. We went on a cruise with the kids. You know, you kind of, maybe the downside is we tried to spoil the kids a little bit more. You know, you're trying to offset the pain with a little more Dave and Buster's, you know? Like,
well, you're I mean, I don't know if you're thinking, but it would seem like you'd be thinking, man, do I need a bucket list part of my life right now?
And certainly Mel had some of that for sure, you know, where she's trying to think through what memories or what things I want to say or leave if this doesn't turn out the way that we expect. And then even this past week, a friend of mine whose wife was going through the same thing found out that she didn't make it. And it's hard to not feel guilty or bad in those moments, you know, when you're walking through similar processes. But we wanted from the beginning, God, just to get all the glory in the midst of all this, that, you know, whatever happened, whatever struggle she walked through, that people would look at her and see a testimony to the Lord. And I hear that even about a month ago, there's a guy in our church who's dealing with a rare blood condition. And he said, I couldn't help but stop and think about your wife and her faith in the midst of my struggle. And I'm like, this is exactly what we wanted for her ministry, for her to be able to help people in those moments. That's really where her heart is, for sure.
I talked to a lot of like pastors / fathers and husbands who are constantly trying to navigate the tension between work and home and ministry and family. For you, all that came, I'm sure, crashing together during those years. Like, tell me a little bit as a dad and a husband and a leader of your home. Like what was it in terms of clarity and your contribution? Did you feel like, okay, God's pushing me down this path to lead my family in this particular way?
I think that experience I had with church planting helped me realize everything's temporary. Even my position's temporary. I tell everybody that's on my team, you're not going to be the last person in that seat. So set the next person up for success. I think when you set your mindset in realizing there's going to be somebody, there's going to be a family pastor after me, there's going to be a campus pastor at Fountain Inn after me. And I hope it's a long time from now, but it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It helps you realize how temporary we are, how fleeting those things are, and the things that are truly important, that truly matter, our love for the Lord, our living throughout circumstances for Him completely, and then obviously family is a big part of that. So early on, my kids were young. That's the reason I don't write anymore. I did all this writing, and I had to decide, am I going to be a pastor who teaches online at Liberty and writes and sometimes is a dad? Or if being a dad is a priority to me, something else has to go. I can't do all this stuff. I can't wear all these hats. And so I let go of some of those things in ministry. Early in ministry, you have dreams of being the guy on stage.
Right.
You're like, I want to be the guy whose name is on the front of the book. And for me, I was like, my dream is actually to have that impact with my family, with my kids, and be there and be present. So when all this happened with Mel, I don't think anything changed. I think it just kind of came into fruition. Thankfully, at our church, my pastor is the most incredible person at this. He's just like, man, whatever you need, you spend time with your family. Whatever you need it. You can miss any meetings. You can do whatever you need to do. So I didn't ever feel a pressure to be in the office or a pressure to be at this meeting or to miss her chemo treatment or anything like that. I was present every step of the way, whatever she needed, without any kind of feeling of obligation to the church. And that was the greatest blessing and joy to have that, because a lot of people don't have that, sadly, especially in a church environment. They don't feel that.
Well, there's a lot of expectations and demands, but I think that's part of our culture.
Yeah.
And part of what's beautiful, right? And we did get all that recorded, all the good things we were saying about our pastor and the guy we work for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's really amazing, and we love him. And
he would probably be upset for me saying this, but we soon after diagnosis sat down at a restaurant for dinner one night, and he gave us cash out of his own pocket and just said, "Hey, I know things are going to be expensive. We just want to be supportive of that." And there's not a lot of people like him in this world, for sure. So, yeah,
dude, I just love like the God part of this story, and how he carved you out, Pat. Like how he's really made you to be able to do what you're doing. And you've heard this, and I've heard this. This isn't unique with me, but it's like that God never really wastes a hurt. He
right.
never really
doesn't
wastes
waste pain. Yeah.
And being able to, Renee and I, we find that when we are walking through some of the darkest things that we could imagine, the Lord always brings people there into the moment, right in there, that they need the hope. They need hope.
Yeah.
They need encouragement, whatever. They need something that we have. And part of the testament to the Holy Spirit is understanding that even at the most depleted, because of Him, we still have something to give.
Yeah.
We still have something to leverage, and that if you don't have that hope in you, it's evident to others, right?
Right.
So as you look at your own life, as you see like these moments that, okay, it wasn't that you had to decide, am I going to be a husband? Am I going to be a pastor? It was the ability to be able to step into those moments and lead your family, and not family or ministry, but family and ministry.
I think that's where we messed up, because in college, it's like, hey, you've got to prioritize the world in this way: God first, then your family, then your job. And how do you separate those things? When you're in ministry. Like, if somebody calls you at 11:30 at night because somebody died or there's a situation going on, is that a God thing? Is that a job thing? Is it how are you determining which level of priority this should be? And yeah, I think we decided our kids are a part of our ministry, and I'm not like obligating them to be pastors' kids in a negative light, but they're a part of what we're doing, and we're a part of their lives, and it's just part of who we are. And I think when we are centering God in our life, everything around our lives is centered around Him, instead of, I always kind of gave this illustration, like you see an atom or a molecule, and I'm not a scientist, so somebody's going to correct this, but you kind of imagine all of those other little things that are kind of like moving around that nucleus, if you will. We do that, right? We're like, well, I'm a athlete, or, I'm a pastor, I'm a speaker, and an author, and we kind of have all these little attributes that we like to circle around. And we would say God is a big part of my life. And I think most people would probably do that. Like, oh, I'm a banker, but God's a big part of my life too, and all this. And I think we have to make that shift where it's God at the center and we're just moving around him. And when that happens, it changes your whole perspective. And so when something like cancer hits or when these obstacles that come up, you're like, well, God's at the center of this. Mm-hmm. So how is this playing into his story? How is this working into his kingdom?
It's true. And something like that level of pain, that level of like chaos can really rock that boat. I think it's maybe more difficult than a lot of than a lot of other roles in life is for pastors to be able to navigate that because the lines are so blurry.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of pastors lose their families or we see it in the news, make really bad decisions all the time because they think their identity is in their job and in their career, right? We think our job defines us. Like you were talking about earlier, our own identity. When you're a church planter and you're building this church and somebody says, oh, I don't like that church, what I hear is, I don't like you.
Correct.
Right? Because you're like, well, that's my baby. That's my child. Like, and you're not liking it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of reprieve from that when you're at an existing church and you're part of a bigger organization that's part of a team and you can go, I hate that you don't like our church. And I do have a part in this for sure, but you don't feel that same personal connection. But there is a lot of us tied to the fact that I'm a pastor or I'm in this role or I wear this hat instead of, man, I'm a child of God and I want to maximize every moment of this day with him being at the center. And if it's walking through this situation, I want to walk through that situation with grace and dignity and pointing everything toward him so that he gets the glory out of that, not me. And I think that the challenge for us is not always that we like the spotlight, but that other people want to put that spotlight on you. People like putting spotlights on a human, right? Mm-hmm. Like we love to lift that person up. And our egos, we eat that up every day. I mean, how many times when you preach do people come up to you after you and say, good job, that was great, right? I don't want people to stop doing that. I'm not saying that. But there is a sense in which I wish people would go, man, like, I need to evaluate that area of my life with the Lord. That's what I want to hear, And maybe that's over-spiritualizing it. But,
dude, I get that.
But we can hear those things so many times that we start going, I am good at this. This is something I thrive in. Mm-hmm. This is something I'm great at. And if you just really took all of that into perspective in our life and you look back to even over the past 25 years for me in ministry and you go, man, how much of what I did was worthless compared to just the surpassing worth of knowing Christ, And I want everything I do to be pointing toward Jesus, no matter what it is. I want it to be drawing people in closer to him. And I think that changes your perspective in life and in ministry.
I remember shortly kind of after my life personally fell apart. I didn't have a lot of clarity in those days about a lot of things, but I did feel the Spirit of God say something very similar to me.
Yeah.
And it was this: Josh, there will be people who will have great things to say about you. And there will be people who you've hurt who will have terrible things to say about you. Neither one of those will define you.
That's good.
Neither one of those define you. Now, it was a long process from there to getting to the point where I really understood who I was and my blessing, how God had given me so much more than any kind of talent, so much more than any kind of ability, but something that he wanted to use, right? The result of the promise to Abraham continued all the way through me. Why? For the sake of the gospel.
Right.
For the sake of the gospel. Now where I'm at right now, like I can absolutely identify with what you're saying. Like being able to fully understand, like, hey, for whatever reason, as I'm about to enter into my 50s next year.
Old. Dude.
It is old. It is very. By the way, thank you, Sunday, for mentioning just how much
older you are.
It's incredible. Some people say it's immeasurable.
Right. Yeah. So. Immeasurable. Well, it is measurable. That's the problem. We're about to measure it really high.
It is freeing for me.
Yeah.
To just be all right with when I'm not impressive enough.
Yeah.
Which is most of the time. And when I think I'm too impressive, when I really think I have it together, like neither one of those things will carry me.
Yeah.
And like this intimacy that I get with Jesus is the real gift.
It's true.
The real blessing that I have is, like you said, like knowing, like really knowing him.
How many times did we stand up in the pulpit and preach it, but not truly get it and live it? And I think sometimes when you walk through those circumstances, it brings depth to what you're sharing on stage.
So you said Mel is healthy.
Mel's healthy. She's doing great. Yeah. Now we're kind of walking through the parent situation at my house. So yeah.
we have kind of mirrored ages in our kids.
Yeah.
And so I feel a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
We will, and we encourage people to continue to pray for Mel as she stays healthy and will for a long, long time. Praise God for that. Not every story ends like that,
right.
And you're like, man, that's its own weight. But praise God that he gives that gift. Today's episode is brought to you in partnership with Studio 101 Media. Partnering with them has allowed me to come in and be able to focus on the things that I do well, which is to tell stories. And it allows them to focus on the things that they do well, which is great audio, great video, and putting that together for me in a way that really illuminates the message that I care about. If you're interested in upping your audio, video game for your podcast, give these guys a call. Check them out at studio101media.com. So you're now the role that you're in. I want you to talk a little bit about like how you're leveraging all of these gifts, these blessings to do what you're doing now. There's a lot. You said you wore a lot of hats. So what I'd like for you to do, instead of talking about each one of those individual things, what are the things that really mean a lot to you right now? I know you're heavily invested in the residency program at the church.
Yeah, our residency program is a 2-year program. College graduates spend 2 years with us, plugged into a ministry, learning the systems of our church in some ways. But what I would say is what I think is a healthy ministry. What we do is so team oriented. It requires humility to not be at the center of every decision, but to actually be a part of a team that's making decisions. And that's a really tough thing because for years and so many pastors, they're just the ones calling the shots. There's so many guys that are out there by themselves, so many youth pastors who are out there by themselves. What we do is such a team-oriented mindset. I think it helps create that healthy culture that more churches need. If we had more teams, more accountability, we'd have less of those news stories. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that. I think the news stories start when our egos get big and when we feel like we're above it all, right? Like I can do all this however I want to do it. I'm the man. I'm the one in charge. When you're a team, you have to go, well, I want the best idea in the room to win, and it's not always mine. And sometimes it's quite often not mine. Right. And so, I think part of what I love about my job is actually being a team leader in that sense. So family ministry at our church is everything from preschool to senior adults, all those ministries in between. So somebody might call it ministries. Other people call it family ministries. It's kind of where we lean in family ministries. And as a church, we lean into the next generation. I feel like that's our priority, is not forgetting or leaving out the next generation. So that's my heart, man. That's my passion, is how can I help lead teams that are going to help us be the most effective at what we can do with what we have. Our model is very different. We've got 10 locations now. We have live teaching at each location. Some locations last Sunday ran about 40 people, and another one ran about 2,000 people. So, we've got everything on every end of that spectrum, and trying to bring all of those pieces together to have a cohesive, unified, excellent, but Christ-centered model is really what I feel like my calling and job is. So that's why I love doing it. Yeah.
Dude, looking around, I really do love seeing all the young leaders.
We got a ton of young leaders at church, and part of that is we have young leaders who are recruiters of young leaders. So there's something more. That's not a Pat thing. But being able to be a part of that team is such a blessing, man. I absolutely love that. I think we have an unusual. You saw a Lifeway report recently about the growing age of pastors just going up and up and up on
without
average.
A lot of new guys coming
Very
into
few
ministry.
Younger guys going into ministry. Our average age, and I've never done this, and I feel like we should probably check it out, but our average age, you and I are the old guys in the room. Yeah. My last church, everywhere I was the young guy in the room, right? Even when I was writing those articles, I was the young guy in the room. They're like, oh my goodness, this guy's writing. And now like being the older guy is kind of a weird feeling, but I'm 45, and to be the older guy at 45 is still such a special thing. I mean, think how many churches have, 60 plus year old pastors, and that's just normal, with nobody on their team below that age to think about that. Our team is full of 20 somethings. And part of that is with the residency, we give them opportunities to fail. So
I want you to push into that a little bit. Like, tell me, what do you think it is they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're everywhere. There are young leaders everywhere, and they're getting younger and younger. And so you have to have an environment where those people are welcome.
Yeah.
Those young leaders feel like, oh, tell me, what are you doing? What's the secret sauce? How do you attract young leaders to your team, man? What is that about?
That's good. Well, I think first and foremost, Wayne really leads with a strong vision. People love a strong vision. I mean, and they want to be a part of a church that has a strong vision. They're not looking for a church that's just trying to pay the bills, keep the lights on, or make sure that nobody upsets the angel tree, or whatever. We're actually a part of a church that has a vision to reach the upstate, and it's a large vision that I hope we accomplish in my lifetime, to actually have the upstate covered, and as far as like the gospel is concerned, through upstate church. And so I love that. I think young people are attracted to that, and they're attracted to a church that doesn't silence them until they're a certain age. We give young people opportunities to serve and to have a voice. When a lot of other churches don't do that. They may expect or require a certain amount of years of experience, or why don't you sit in the corner and observe us for 5 years? We're the kind of church that's like, we're gonna put you on stage, but we're also gonna equip you before you get up there. We're gonna give you the tools that you need before you get up there, and then we're gonna evaluate after the fact what you could have done different. And so we're not just throwing them up there willy-nilly. We're actually coaching them and trying to create a pipeline of leaders that are creating leaders. And the other part of that is, I think our strategy to make disciples is different than a lot of churches. We actually are trying to have disciple makers, people who are pouring into other people's lives. It's not just about getting a job at a church or being, how many, and I was probably something that I'm maybe too passionate about. How many youth pastors are just simply trying to find 1 to 2 activities to do a month, and that's what they feel like their job is, right? They're not making disciples. They're not pouring into kids.
Yeah.
They're not building leaders.
Glorified babysitters.
They're focused on, I got to have 1 or 2 events this month, and then obviously have my curriculum, and then I have no clue what they do with the rest of their time. And that exists in so many different places. That's not what we do. Man, our vision and our goal is so much bigger than that. We want to make disciples. We want people who are disciples who are pouring in to other people. We want leaders who are developing other leaders. We want leaders who are hungry and looking for ways to lead. And then when we give them opportunities, we're looking for leaders who will ask for feedback on that. Just the other day, one of our student coordinators was speaking and said, "Hey, would you mind evaluating my message tonight?" How many times have you heard that in any other environment? Like, we've created an environment where people want to grow and they want that feedback. And I think generationally speaking, the generation behind you and I, millennials and now Gen Z, they want collaboration. They want to be part of a team. They don't want to feel like they're the guy on an island doing their own thing. They want to be a part of something that is a movement that God is working as a part of. And they also want to feel like they have a voice in that. And I feel like those are 2 things that we offer. We're giving you a voice. We're asking for God to do something. Will you come join us and be a part of this? We're not going to just give you a task and give you an office and say, go do your 2 events a year, or 2 events a month, or whatever it is. We're actually inviting you to a larger purpose than that. And it's going to wear you out. You might get tired and you might get exhausted, because it's nonstop work for sure. Ministry is, right? We want them to have the right priorities in their own life. But man, when you're young, you don't have kids, and many of them are single, you got more time than you have ever had in your life.
Right.
When I talk to a 22-year-old and they're like, I'm just so busy. I'm like, bro. You just wait. Now, maybe when I'm like 55 or 60,
yeah,
I'm going to be like, all right, things slowed down. My kids are grown and I'm not paying their bills anymore. Yep. But this stage of life, I promise you, I've never met somebody busier than I am. Like, I'll stack my calendar against anybody. And so what we want to do is like get those guys, man, all in, be a part of the mission, be a part of what God's doing, and be developed in the process. And my hope and heart is that we'd actually not only be able to hire some of them on our team, but we're not going to be able to hire all of them. I've got 9 right now. I've got 4 onboarding in January. We're not going to have a position for every single person. So I want to be able to equip the church, man. Like, how can we think about kingdom? How can we be pouring into the upstate or other parts of the state, or even the world for that matter, by providing leaders who are grounded that didn't have to learn the hard way like I did, and at 29 years old go, man, I am at the depths of my emotional, spiritual self, and I need to be pulled out, but yet build them up to a place where they're like, I have not only accountability, but training and have been equipped to not make some of those same mistakes. And so that's kind of where our heart is on it.
Bro, that's so good. Dude, here's what, kind of as we land this thing, here's what I want to do. I just believe wholeheartedly in the fact that our blessing is really connected so deeply to our identity. And when you give someone a blessing, right, it's recognizing, one of the ways is recognizing who they are and then just speaking that over them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I want to give you here in just a minute. But here's the other thing. Now this is a gift. This is a gift from me.
All right.
And it is special.
Okay.
And I want you to go ahead and open it.
All right.
Okay? I want to open it on camera, and I want to talk through it, and then I want to explain a little bit about it, and then maybe how it.
It's a pack of cigarettes.
It's a pack of cigarettes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're gonna light up. So.
No, this is great.
Yeah. So if you're wondering.
Yeah, I am wondering.
This is a Case pocket knife.
Okay, cool.
Right? Now, okay,
Yeah,
cool
look at that.
is one way to say it, but there's a few things you need to understand about this knife. One, Case is like a staple brand. So, and it's like talking about a John Deere tractor. So it's not like that, like I'm doing some kind of advertisement for Case or that I have some kind of sponsorship. I don't. However, this is very, very special knife. That knife was made the year you were born.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And so it's very, very old, Pat. So,
I wondered why you super old. I wondered why you asked me what year I was born.
It is made the year you were born. That is, I believe that is, let me see this. Let me make sure I get the name right. This is called it's a Jack. So it's made 1980, if you don't mind the period. So it's original to 1980. And what's so rare about it is the handle is made out of red stag.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
I was thinking it was antler. Yeah.
So it's antler. So most of that during those days. Now, something cool, this was handmade. So the Case family still had control of the company back then when this was made. So this one would have been handmade. And that particular red stag would have been like resourced from Europe. And so those are like highly collectible.
That's awesome,
and
man.
Here's why I wanted you to have it. Like, one,
I shouldn't be touching it.
No. That's exactly where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I do want to say this. I want you to love it, but I want you to use it.
Yeah.
Like, there'd be nothing worse than for somebody to pull that out of a drawer in 50 years and go, wonder what this was about. What'd be awesome is if you've worn the blade out by then, right? And so I hope you use it, and I hope you think about. Well, why am I giving you that now? Well, I want it to be a memory for you that you can understand. Like, man, that thing was made the same year you were made, and in the same way that thing was crafted uniquely, you were. And man, just like a lot of us, I think, as the years went by, you got more and more clear about what that really was. And so,
that's good.
Man,
Thank you.
Just knowing you just for a few years, there's a few things I want to say that I appreciate about you. One, you are one of the funniest people that I know.
This has been the least funny podcast.
It's not.
Ever.
We're not putting that on display as much.
Right, yeah.
But like your ability to deliver a line of comedy with a straight face is just
Appreciate that.
Beautiful. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's a little dark. And so you also can appreciate my own brokenness in
Right.
that. But more than that, I appreciate how God has used you in his kingdom, sort of like as the background vocal in a way for a lot of stories. And Pat, what I want to tell you is that's such a beautiful place to be. And I want you to know that voice, man, is way, way, way louder than maybe even you know. And I see God continuing to use that voice, like watching how this is taking root in the life of so many young couples, young ministers, young pastors. I don't know if you know, man, there's just very few pastors that are making the investment in young leaders that you're making right now. And I see God continuing to use that in such an incredible way. I count you as a friend, a new friend in life. But man, you're a loyal guy. And man, as I'm sitting here thinking, like, you and I've talked a lot about our kids, and we worry a lot about our families. But as I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm just reminded of the blessing over families that generation after generation after generation would experience the hope of the gospel because of mostly Jesus' influence.
Right.
All Jesus' influence.
All because of him.
But that would be made evident through you and your life and Mel's life and your kids' life.
You're so encouraging, man. And I thank you for the gift. This is really nice.
Yeah.
I was looking for a pocket knife yesterday or Sunday, so
well,
now I'll have one on me.
Now you have one.
Yeah.
Listen, I really am grateful that you were here. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come, man.
Dude,
It's
absolutely.
great.
This was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.